Hello, everybody. Welcome to the National Parents Union Nightly Restorative Check-in. Thank you so much for being with us. Today is Wednesday, January 27th. And the National Parents Union has celebrated its 1 year anniversary. January 18th was our anniversary. And the Parents Union was created to really have a space and support for grassroots parents and nonprofit organizations who are parent focused, who really represent the non-traditional parent voice in educational systems. And we really want to have an impact on policy and legislation, both at the school level, district level, state level, federal level, absolutely. And the voices that we really want to make sure that we elevate are those that are not traditionally represented. So what do I mean by that? We're here to hear and to elevate the voices of foster parents, single mothers and fathers, grandparents who may be raising kids, people who are who have been formerly incarcerated, those who may have suffered from substance abuse, those from different socioeconomic levels, absolutely our Black, Brown, and Indigenous children. And so we've created this space to support parents in not just navigating their education space, but fighting to be involved in decision making. And this show, the Nightly Restorative Check-in, came about as just a time for us to have with our guests, to sit down, to check in and find out who they are and how they are. And, my guests do not have to be parents. A lot of them are not, but they are all people, really beautiful human beings who care about our world, about our communities, about society, and absolutely care about our children, who I consider our future ancestors. So I don't always give that introduction of the National Parents Union. I think it's important. So I wanted to share that with you today. As a reminder, tomorrow we have the We Got You Pod Navigator support. That'll be at 3 p.m. Pacific time, 6 p.m. Eastern. We have some great information to share with you. So either you can register, you just join us live. And we're going to have Columbia University, actually it's Columbia Law School, Center for Research, Education, and Policy and Leadership, who are presenting a really phenomenal guide that they've put together, and also our Ed Navigator partners. And they're here to answer your questions for parents who may be learning pod leaders, or, you have questions about your kids, anything that has to do with your kids and education, we're here to answer. So with that, I'd like to introduce myself. I am your host, Marisol Quevedo Rerucha. As always, I am the very proud wife of Daniel. This is our 20th year that we have been married. I am the mother to Camerina, Emilia, and Sofia. I am the daughter to Irma Castro and Abraham Quevedo. I am the grandmother to Isabela Luna and Cynthia Iliana. And I am the granddaughter to Camerina Rodriguez Castro, Alejandro Castro, Francisco Quevedo, and Carmen Bedoya Quevedo. And I introduce myself in that way always. And I always tell you why, because I do it. I want to encourage people just to think about how you enter a space, how you let that space know that you've arrived. And for me, I want to always recognize that I've arrived with my people. I roll deep. And I arrive with my ancestors, those who I did not name, and those who I never met, whose our skins have never touched, but I know that they worked for me, they lived for me, they prayed for me, and they prayed for the work that I have the honor to do in this world. And I know that I carry that legacy of my ancestors, and also all of my relatives who have poured into me. But I also recognize that I carry those, the dreams and the hopes and the challenge for our future ancestors. And so for me, it's always important to ground myself in that way and to introduce myself to you every night that we have a show in that way. And I always remind you, because my hope is that we can, even if you just say that to yourself as you enter a space, because it grounds you and you go in knowing that you're not alone, and knowing that the work is not just, it's not about you. It's about the community. It's about us and those that came before us, those that are standing with us, and those that will come after us. So with that, I want to, we're going to go into our, we're going to delve into our breathing technique that Dr. Anjali showed us, and that is the 4-7-8 breathing technique. So we inhale for 4 seconds, we hold for 7, and then we release for 8. And we do this 4 times. So I will guide you through the technique. All you have to do is breathe. If for whatever reason you get kind of caught up, because it can feel like a lot, either you're holding too long or too short, or you get out of breath, just go to your regular pattern and join us on the next round. But I always recommend that you do this pattern at least once a day. And I use a timer to help with the even spacing, and I will guide you through it. So with that, if you could please put your feet firmly on the ground, close your eyes, take just a regular breath in and out, and inhale, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, release, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Inhale, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, release, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Inhale, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, release, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Inhale, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, release, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Okay. So I encourage you to do that technique at any time. We do it to just open that space up and to get focused on our guests that we have coming on. But as I've shared before, I do that technique before going to sleep. I do it every night again. And also I try to do it when I'm transitioning in between activities. So going into a meeting, sometimes depending on the meeting that I lead, like we do that technique at the start of the meeting. And that was something that Dr. Anjali shared with me as a good way of using that strategy. And as a reminder, she hosts this show on Friday, and her guests on Friday, she's going to have, it sounds like a group of women who will be joining her, and I know that the conversation is going to be really beautiful and phenomenal, and so you'll be able to experience some of her sisterhood, so please make sure to join in. And with that, I am going to bring in my guest, and here we go. So hello, Avril.
Hello. How are you?
I'm so good. I'm so happy to be talking to you. I'm so happy to be talking to you. So, Avril, if you could please introduce yourself, like let us know who you are in this world, and feel free to share anything you want. So, if you want to talk about like your childhood, where you grew up, your whatever it is that you want, your challenges, your love, the things you can't stand, whatever, in any way that you would like to introduce yourself.
So I want to say I really loved the way that you introduced yourself and kind of standing in your ancestors and the strength of your ancestors. And I did a seminar, it was at some point last year with Nikki Giovanni and the women from Girl Trek, and they interviewed Nikki Giovanni, and that's how they started the seminar. And they had all of us to put in our chat like who we're the daughters of. And I just thought that was so beautiful. And I had never been in a space before where people acknowledged that and did that. And I thought, like, I want to stand in that power, and I want to acknowledge that and do that. And so to hear you do that, it brought back to remembrance of who I stand on the shoulders of. So I thank you for starting off that way. My name is Avril Speaks. I'm the daughter of Lizzie and Willie Speaks, granddaughter of Ruby and John Speaks, and Annie Bell Butler from Greenwood, South Carolina. Both of them were from Greenwood. Um, I'm a producer, a writer, a director. Um, it's interesting because I think in starting off that way and just kind of thinking about who I am and uh, what makes me who I am. I come from two parents who, like I said, both grew up in the same hometown in Greenwood, South Carolina, and then both, moved to New York and
Mhm.
got married in New York and started a new life, a whole new life in New York City. And so it's always interesting because I think about my own life sometimes about how I'm very much a city girl, you know, in many shapes of the world. But like my roots are Greenwood, South Carolina. Like when you go to Greenwood, most people in town, at least this used to be the case. I don't know, things change, demographics change, but it used to be that you couldn't go to Greenwood without running into a Speaks or a Roundtree or a Butler. Like everybody was family, you know. Everybody knows each other. My parents knew each other. They knew each other from school, like went to high school together. So it's that notion of like we're in this together, we're family, and we look out for each other. And even to this day, my both sets of grandparents have passed on, but my grandparent, on my father's side, they have a house still in Greenwood, and relatives. I drove by and I saw, the grass is getting too high. You might want to get somebody. So it's still that sense of family and of community and looking out for each other. It still exists. Um, yeah, and it makes me think about. I always used to laugh when we used to go visit my grandparents because they had this porch outside of that wrapped around, that was like on the side of the house,
Mhm.
and we would go and visit them, and we would come in, we put our bags down, and we go sit on that porch, and people would come by and be like, hey, like, how do you even know that we're in town? Like, how do you even know that we're here? And it's like, oh, people just sense it and just know it, and
Mhm.
would just come by and say hello, and then word gets around and more people would come by and say hello. No phone calls were made. Like we didn't need to go call and say we coming to town. It was just a thing where people just knew. And then the same thing when we get settled, and then we get in the car and we're gonna go visit cousin so and so, and it wasn't like, well, we gotta call them first and make an appointment and see if they're available. Like you just go, and they're there, and you go and you sit on their porch and you drink tea or water or whatever, and you just have a good time. So anyways, I'm kind of
I love that so much, April. And I had this image of like your family arriving and your feet touching the soil, and like the soil carrying the message that you had arrived,
mm,
like
yeah.
the vibration of the soil.
Mm,
And it reminded me a little bit. I was my dad's family, they were farm workers, but they settled in Fresno. And my grandfather had died when my dad was 11. So I didn't know him, but my grandmother, he's one of 16 kids. There's
mm,
50 grandkids.
oh,
But
wow.
that's that feeling of when you go, like people are always coming, and then you're going to see people, and there's absolutely a thing about you better not show up, you better not show up in South Carolina and not go see your auntie or your cousin or your.
That's so true. That is so true. Like, yeah, you better not come, and don't let somebody find out that you've gone,
Mhm,
that you left,
mhm.
and
And you
didn't come by.
mhm.
Don't. Mm-mm.
that it's such almost like a charmed way to grow up to have I think sometimes I remember having a conversation with somebody. I was like, what's the American dream anyway? Like, what is that? Like, I don't know what the American dream is, but some of what I feel that people think about, like the way it's that it's that there's a place in a home, a home, not just the building, but a home where you belong in a community that belongs to you.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
And it seems almost I like it's like an enchanted way to grow up.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's for me. We would going to South Carolina was always, we would go during the summers. We would go Christmas. You know, sometimes we would go in between or whatever. But for me, it always felt like a secret hideaway.
Mhm.
So I was born in New York. I was raised in New Jersey. Um, and it's just very different. And for me, it was always like we go into this secret place, right? Like we're gonna get in the station wagon and drive down to South Carolina with our chicken sandwich in the cooler in the back seat. And it was just such a special time. Like it was a time to get away from you know just the I guess I can say, for lack of a better word, the hustle and bustle of New York and New Jersey.
Part
But
of it is connecting with the earth. Like that's your family's earth. That's your
exactly,
family's ground. Like that, it is literally your family's earth. And
exactly.
city, everything's concrete. And even though there's beautiful parks, that is your family's. Like that's the earth that belongs to you.
Yes.
You
And
know.
it's no, and you're exactly right. And it's the roots. Like our roots are there. So
Mm-hmm.
when to pull up in my grandmother's driveway and see the swing set that my grandfather built for my sister. I'm the youngest of three. And so, by the time I was coming up, that swing set was coming up out of the coming out of the grass. Every time
Will you explain?
grass. But my grandfather built that swing set for
Yeah.
us. My grandfather built that house. He built that house. Him and my uncle built that house that they lived in. And so, and as a family, we've always been really proud of that house. Like, even as a kid, it was like, I'm going to grandma's house and I'm gonna sleep in. She had different rooms, so and they were all like color coded. So it was like the blue room, the pink room, the green room. So you had these rooms, and the blue room was fancy because it had its own bathroom. So, because we lived in an apartment in New York, we one bathroom with everybody. So, you go to grandma's house and she has the bathroom in the hallway, and then the blue room has its own bathroom. So it was like, but it was like when you pull up in that driveway, there's like this house that my grandfather's hands built, the
Mm.
swing set that my grandfather's hands built for
Mhm.
us, for his grandkids,
Mhm.
and then, we would go over and see, my grandfather, my mother's father who lived around the corner. And we go there and, my mother would say, oh yeah, well we used to sleep in that room and we used to do this and, tell me the stories about what happened in that house and
Mhm.
how they grew up in that house. So it's very much, and then you got to take a trip out to the country and go to church. And you go to church, and that's where your ancestors are buried. My
Mhm.
great grandmother, that's where they're buried, is right there on the church land. So it's
Mhm.
like, that's where roots are. That's where
Mhm.
my roots are, in
Mhm.
Greenwood. And it's just a very special place. So, when you say that, that's a home. you
Mhm.
know it it feels like, um I don't know, it's just special. It's just a really special place.
It's your land. It's tu tierra. My grandma used to say, And I don't even, I was 16 when she passed, but she would say sometimes, I like, como extraño mi rancho, which is like, like your ranch. But she was really talking about like, I miss my land, like
Mm-hmm.
la tierra, like that's my home, like that connection. And
Mm-hmm.
there's something, I've always felt that way. I was 18. I went to Mexico City for on my own. My family, it was like my graduation trip, and I have family there, so I stayed with family. But it was when I was right outside of Mexico City and seeing the land that I felt like I was home.
Mm-hmm.
It was the first, like, so that connection to the land for me is very real because I felt it at 18.
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
was like, oh, like this is where I belong. Like it's familiar without ever really having known it. And I
Yeah.
think that and it goes to our roots, to our ancestral, like that's part of you know, the like a legacy that belongs to us. And I think it's so important. Not everybody has that, Avril.
Mm-hmm. And it's easy to forget that
Hmm.
not everybody has. I think you're right. Not everybody has that. And you know, a friend of mine, we have this kind of joke that we say amongst us just to kind of help ground us, like when we're, you know, I live in LA. It's very busy. I
Hmm.
work in film and television, and it's
Hustle and bustle, kind of what you talked
hustle
about.
and bustle all the time. And I remember one time, this was, my grandmother, I'm trying to remember, I think she was still living in the house, and, she wasn't doing, but it was one of the visits that we had. And once again, we had family members that came by, and they came by with hash. They used to make the beef hash
Hmm.
in
Hmm.
containers, and they would sell it. They would sell hash to raise money for our family reunion. And I remember one of my relatives coming over and bringing some hash. And I remember all of us sitting on the porch eating hash.
Hmm.
And, so my friend and I, because, she's from the South as well. And I was telling her about that moment where it was just like, it was such a grounding moment of like, you worried about all this stuff and the script and we just sitting here eating hash. Like that's all that's all we want to do. And that's all that matters right now is that we just and at the end of the day, I have to like that's what grounds me is that, you know, again, I was born and raised New York, New Jersey, but at the end of the day, I'm a girl who sits on the porch eating hash. We just eating hash. And so, I say that to my we say that to each other all the time of like, I'm just eating hash, eating beef hash on the porch.
I cannot state enough what a blessing it is that you have all of those components
Mm,
as a part of your spirit
mm,
that you have, because there's something really beautiful about the city as
mm,
well, and there's something really beautiful about like the understanding of the heartbeat of the city. Like there's but to have that home that's land, it's so beautiful. How does any of this inform your work as a producer, as a director? Are you a writer also?
I write too. I don't write as much as I used to. Um, but yeah, I am a writer as well. Like I said, I things have just gotten so busy. I think I've gotten out of the practice of
Mhm.
writing, um, which is sad. Like I don't even journal as much as I used to. I used to journal a lot, and I don't really do it as much. But yeah, I can say that I'm a writer too. Um, and I'm sorry. So you were asking.
So how does your like all of these components of who you are, your I would say like your roots,
Mm,
because
mhm,
you have those southern roots, but you also have the roots of the city.
mhm, mhm.
You know,
Yeah,
and how does that inform your work as a storyteller? Because like, and that part you were like talking about the stories your mom said, because you're a storyteller.
yeah, yeah. It totally informs my work. Like when I look at my body of work, when I look at the type of material, not just that I work on and that I do, but even the stories that I'm drawn to as a viewer, like that I'm the most, into. they're all reflective of that. Family stories are,
Mhm.
you can have me in a heartbeat if it's a story about a family and a family going through something, or a family, experiencing something together. You already have me at family, and so that's a big part of what I look for and what I do. So a lot of the projects that I'm really passionate about have to do with some element of family and some type of like family dynamic. Um, and it could be, it's all different kinds of family. It's all different types of families, but I just I'm just always fascinated by um the family unit.
Mhm.
And that's whether you're in, both in the city and wherever you're located. It's like if it's a family,
Mhm.
um, I love it. I love kid. I used to always, well, I still joke that my my criteria for like growing up, my criteria for a good movie, it had to have black people in it, have music in it, or have kids in it. And if it had any combination of those three, then
Mhm.
you would get the stamp of approval. If it
What
had
were
one
your
of those things, it was good. If it had all three, it was like,
What were your favorite movies growing up?
um, my favorite movie, E.T. was a favorite because it had kids. Um, The Wiz was another one because it had music, black people.
I remember the one we had the like three network channels, right?
Yeah,
And I remember
yeah,
it was like, oh my, like it was coming on TV. Like it was like when the Olympics were a big thing. Like,
yeah, yeah. It was an event. It was like such an event when that came on. Um, I loved ET. I loved The Wiz. What else? I loved Annie. I was like such a fan of Annie movie. Like,
of the okay, so of the red haired Annie or the newer Annie with
no,
I think Jamie Foxx was in it.
no, 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 no.
OG, the red
OG,
hair Carol Burnett.
OG. Yes, yes. Carol Burnett and Bernadette
Okay.
Peters. Oh
Oh
my.
yes. Yes. And Tim, oh, what was his name? The one who played the brother, Scare Crow.
Uh, uh,
Rooster. Rooster. He played
Rooster,
Rooster.
Rooster. Yeah, I'm forgetting his name, but
But
yeah.
he the Rocky Horror Picture Show. He was oh, so I'm gonna tell you my Annie story.
Okay.
So I was a chubby kid. I fell in love with Annie. And I convinced my mother and my aunt to perm my hair. So I was a chubby kid with permed hair because I loved Annie. But wait, I decided, and I my mom took me to see the play. So I was like, I want to be in a play. Oh my god, I love this story so much because like, this is just like so. I don't know how I found out that they were sent that I don't know that they were casting here in San Diego for the play for The King and I for the children of Siam. So I took my little round Latina, light skinned, curly haired self to try out as one of the children of the King of Siam. I was like 8. I was like 8 years old. I didn't get the part, Avril.
Oh, honey. I love that story so much. You
I
were determined though. You were like, I'm gonna get this part.
I didn't. I mean, like they. So I made the round where they just line you up and then they call people back. I didn't get the.
You get the call.
I didn't pass. I didn't pass the first screening. Ay, ay, ay. But
Oh,
there's, but I think that's the impact, right? That entertainment has on our lives and that stories have.
yeah, yeah, yeah. You know, it's so interesting. There's so many movies that like you watch them again later, and then you're just like, it doesn't do it for me anymore. Like Annie is a movie I can still watch. Granted, when I watch it now, I'm like, okay, the Jeffrey Holder character is a bit racist. That's the problem. But in terms of like the sentiment and the emotion behind the film, I took a writer's workshop once, and as part of that workshop, we had to list 10 of our favorite movies, and we had to talk about why they were our favorite and like what emotions the film brought out. And Annie was one of the ones that I mentioned because it wasn't the question wasn't what are your favorite movies. It was like what movie makes you emotional or something like that. And so Annie was one of the films, and so the scene where when Annie is climbing up the bridge, it's like toward
Yep,
the end.
yep.
Rooster is running after her.
Mhm.
I I bawl on that scene every time, even to this day as an adult. Like I start bawling on that scene. And so in this writers workshop, we started talking about what is it about that moment, and kind of it was like therapy. Like this writers retreat was like therapy where you really it's like what does that bring up for you? And we talked about that moment and what that moment brings out for me. And I think one of the reasons why that movie has such an impact and it resonates with me so much even to this day is that Annie is a fighter. Like
Mhm.
to the end, like Annie is like, I'm gonna go up this bridge. Like I don't know where this is gonna end,
Mhm.
but I'm going up this bridge to get away. And I'm like fighting for my life. I'm fighting for those girls at the orphanage,
Mhm.
and she gets saved, like they save her, and she gets a happy ending, but it's like that moment on the bridge is like, you know she's like the um standing in the gap, again standing in the gap for
Mhm.
for herself, for her friends, and is willing to risk it, and she's also just trying to survive, and just and it's also that element of like survival, right,
Mhm.
and just trying to get away and get to a safe space. So it's just really interesting how like that one scene brings up so many like truths for me, like in my own life, by like Little Orphan Annie. Like it's a movie that you wouldn't necessarily expect to be deep. Like usually when people ask me like what my favorite film is, I'm kind of like Annie. I don't want to say it. But that moment just brings out so much emotion in me. Um, so yeah, I mean, just thinking about it, I'm just like,
So, and one of the things that I think is so beautiful, what that I'm realizing about life is how much we're mirrors of each other,
mm,
and in all the ways, right? Like, and so I'm wondering how is she a mirror of you? How is that moment of her on the bridge a mirror of you?
mm. I feel like, the thing about Annie that I also resonate with is that, you know, Annie is the like unwanted, she's like the unwanted orphan. You know what I mean? She's the one at the
Mhm.
orphanage. Miss Hannigan is like, Annie, you
You don't
don't
want
want
her.
Annie.
Yeah.
You can get anybody else, but you don't want Annie. Like she's the unexpected one.
Mhm.
For her to be the one to get to go to see Daddy Warbucks, but like she had to fight for that. Like she had to fight to be the one to
Mhm.
go with Daddy Warbucks, right? Like she had to be the one to sneak in the laundry basket and get taken there and all that kind of stuff. So it's like Annie to me is like the underdog, like the least expected one. that has to, just kind of fight to be seen and has
And
to fight.
how has that been you? How?
That's how I felt. Like I felt like
Mhm.
even when I think about myself in film, for example, I feel like my journey as a filmmaker is that I'm always the forgot. I'm always, even now I feel that way. I'm the one that people don't necessarily think about firsthand. I'm very shy. I'm very quiet. I'm very much an introvert. I'll say that. I don't. I'm coming to differentiate between being shy and being introverted. I'm an
Mhm.
introvert, and
Mhm.
so I don't. I'm just not the loudest one in the room. You know what I mean? And so I often feel like, for some people, like when my name comes up, it's like Avril. Oh, okay. And but then it's like I have to fight and I have to prove that, like, I
Like
am
this
the one.
it. Mhm.
Yeah, yeah, that I am the one. I am the one that you want. And then, and yeah, like Annie on that bridge to me is, I'm a fight to the end.
Mhm.
I'm gonna keep fighting. And so many times in my life, I've had to just kind of take these leaps. Again, like if I think back to that scene where she sees there's danger here, I'm jumping out of this car, I'm just gonna
Mhm.
run for it. Like I don't know where I am, I don't know where I'm going. I'm just gonna run, I'm just gonna go for it.
Which that instinct is something that not everybody has. So that's part of that scrappiness
Yeah.
because some people have been so trained that they would stay in that car,
Yeah.
like they would try to. And so that instinct of like of fighting and running is that
Yeah.
tells, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's a thing of like when you know something is not right, or something just doesn't, it's this, there's a restlessness, and there's something eating at you that it's like, this just isn't right. And I need to get out of this situation. And so, and I think that may be even another element of that moment on the bridge, is that she knew that something wasn't right.
Mm.
And so she ran for it, and she got herself in a situation where she was like really in trouble. Like you know,
Mhm.
but at that point you have to keep going, because if you stop on that bridge, he's going to get you.
Mhm.
But if you, like, you don't know what's on the other side of that, because it was like that bridge thing, and like it ended, like the thing ended, the ladder thing ended. So it's like, what am I going to do when I get to the top there? I have no idea. I've been in that situation so many times where I had jumped out the car, and I'm like, I'm halfway up this bridge and I have no idea what I'm going to do when I get to the top. And I just have to pray, dear God, I hope you coming in the helicopter. And just,
Mhm.
unwrap your turban, like, and help me out of this mess. And I think, and that's, I cry on the part of her climbing,
Mhm.
and then I also cry on that part where, she's like, help, help. And then, Carol Burnett is, Miss Hannigan is like, Rooster, she's just a
Yeah,
baby.
she's just, and that's the part that got me because she called her a baby.
Yes,
She's just a baby.
she's just a baby. And and they save her, like they save her in the helicopter, but it's like, she put herself out there. And like I said, there's just been many times in my life where I felt like I'm climbing up a bridge, like I'm climbing up this ladder, and I don't know if anybody's going to catch me, you
Can
know.
you share one of those times that you can think of with us?
Yeah. So when I, in my career wise, like when I became a producer, that was that I kind of like made a decision to be a producer. That was the moment. So I had spent many years, I had gone to film school, and I was like, I'm going to be a director and this and that. And then I started teaching. So I spent like about 10 years as a professor. Like I was a college professor. I was in Atlanta, and then I moved to DC, and then I moved out here to LA, and I was teaching for a couple of years here. And it got to a point where I was like, I don't I don't know if I can do this because I was an adjunct. So I was teaching part-time, excuse me, at two different schools. And it's just a lot. It's very taxing as an adjunct to go back and forth to different schools. And you have all these students, you have, you might have 3 classes at both schools and you're teaching 6 classes. You're going back and forth, traveling and all these papers. And so I got into a point where I was like, I can't, and the pay is not great. And so you're not making a lot of money and it's just a lot of sacrifice to make for seemingly little reward. I mean, I love teaching, so there is that reward, but it's like I have to live as well. And I got into a point where I was up for a full-time job at both schools. And I applied, and one of the schools, I had made it through the whole interview process, and everything pointed to like this was going to be great, this is going to work out, and like you're going to get this job, and da da da. And I didn't get it, and so I mean, literally, like they had called my references, and they all were like, yeah, they called me, and they all said you're great, they love you, you're a shoo-in, you're gonna get this job. I knew within my heart of hearts I was gonna get this job, and I didn't. And then the other job, I got an email from them not too long after that saying I didn't have that either. And so again, just feeling like I'm being overlooked again, like I'm already working for you. I have a good rapport with the students. For whatever reason, I'm not the one chosen. And I quit. They were like, well, well, we can keep going. You can come back in the fall and we'll give you some more classes. And I was just like, no, I'm not coming. And so I was like, so that was me on the ladder. I was like, I don't know what I just did. I don't know,
So you quit without having yourself set up. Like you quit, you were like, no, like I'm done. You don't see me, you don't want me, then I'm done.
I quit. And
so what was the turban? You got to tell me. You got to tell me. Did you crochet your own turban? Did you sew your own turban?
You know who the turban was? And you know this person. Atia was the turban. Atia was the turban. I reached out and I said, hey, I don't have a job. I need, and the thing is, like, because I had spent 10 years as a professor, it's just a different world. Like I had spent 10 years as a professor. I had taught in the classroom. I mean, I was writing papers. I was writing books. Like I was writing chapters in books. Like academia is a whole different thing. I was writing chapters in books. I was going to conferences and speaking at conferences and talking about race and the movies, leading these like intellectual, philosophical conversations about, whatever. And so I had to just completely revamp and redo my whole resume. It was like the most heartbreaking thing to take all of that off of my resume, like all of my degrees, all of my, articles and book chapters and everything. I had to take all of that off because because I had made the decision. I was like, I'm not going to go back into the classroom. I'm going to go back into production. And I'm like, nobody in the production cares that you wrote a book about the theology of philosophy of whatever. So I had to take all of it off and start from scratch and do a brand new resume. And and so it was scary. I was starting over again, and in many ways starting from the bottom. And I had to kind of humble myself and just say, okay, like people here don't know me as anything. Like they don't know me as a producer, they don't know me as a director, they don't know anything. And so that's what I did. And I reached out. And,
so I think really like that, to me, you're still that turban, because that part of reaching out. So there was somebody there that was there to receive, and to provide you, you know, the support for the next steps. But it really takes a lot to take that initiative. And I think also, like, I'm over here smiling for a couple of reasons because I love that that is who you are. That you saw that you weren't being recognized, you saw that you weren't valued, you saw that you weren't seen, and you bounced. And you knew there was something else out there for you, and you created it.
Mhm.
And you know, I have a really, really dear, beautiful friend who almost has kind of a very similar story as you have, like with being in the community college and just, you know, made the decision to leave,
Mhm.
to um, to really a little bit different because they had an option of like being ready to move into, what do they call it when you're like fully vested in the university system?
Tenure?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And it's like, this is not where my heart is. And
Mhm.
so like leaving to build your heart. So so then what was your next step?
So the next step was, like I said, I had to rebuild my resume, and I just started reaching out to people, and I reached out to everyone I knew, and was like, "Can you help me? Can you help me build a resume?" Like,
So did you
I
start taking shows, or you did you get like, so you started you know, you picked up movies or you picked up shows, and you said like you
I,
started
a Tia hired me to work at BT, and that was like my first kind of entryway back into the business.
how long ago was that?
That was in 2016.
Okay, hold on a second. So we need to celebrate. I need you to say the things that you worked on and what you've done in 5 years. I didn't realize that and I really only 5 years. So since that time, so you got hired to work at BET, but what have you done in those 5 years?
So, oh my gosh. So, in those 5 years, I made a movie called Gin, which, premiered at South by Southwest. It won the jury prize for writing. It
Can you see that?
won
This
a ton of
congratulations.
awards and got distribution through MGM. I made another film called Hosea. That's out now on Amazon and iTunes. I made another film called African America that's coming out now. I made another film called Dottie and Soul that's in production now. I worked on a TV show. I worked on with Atia at BET. I worked on a TV show called American Race for TNT.
Mhm.
Um, I've done a bunch of labs, and I'm a Sundance Fellow. I'm an IFP Fellow, a Rotterdam Fellow, a Black House Fellow, just a bunch of fellowships. And
Wow. In 5 years, how many fellowships?
oh my goodness, let's see,
In 5 years.
in 5 years, I would say um, at least five, six, seven, maybe. I don't know. Thank
You got some celebrations because
Thank
we need to
you.
celebrate that.
Thank you, Yolanda.
So that's actually my aunt.
Oh,
Yeah, that's me in the picture with her.
I love
Um,
I love
Yeah,
it.
I know, and I know my aunt, I know that she's proud of you. I know that she is bursting out of her soul proud of you. And I am so tremendously proud of you because like I didn't realize that it had only been 5 years. So so you kind of went off and on the names, but I want to catch the names of the movies so that we can look them up. So Jen, can you spell that?
It's JINN, and that's available on Amazon and iTunes. It's on Amazon Prime and it's on iTunes. And make sure you get the 2018 version because there's
Okay,
a bunch of different versions of gin. And
okay.
so make sure you get the right one. If you're looking at something else that ain't.
Oh, okay, I got you. I got you.
Yeah,
I got
yeah.
There's another J. Okay. And what is that, Josiah? How do you spell Josiah?
Hosea is HOSEA. Hosea, and that's on Amazon. Yeah, and on Amazon and iTunes as well. And then the other films aren't available yet. So African America just released. Like it's going to premiere at the Pan African Film Festival next month. So it's not widely available yet. It's just kind of doing the festival circuit right now. So that's not available yet. And then the other film, Dottie and Soul, is still in production. Like we got shut down due to COVID. So we're still trying to finish that one up. But the other two are available and you can.
So I actually I texted Anjali because I'm like, oh my gosh, are you listening to this? So she hosts the show on Fridays, and you have to watch. I know it's going to be a great show on Friday, but so she is that community college friend. I was like, I texted her really quick because I was like, are you watching? Because I'm so proud, and I love that you're standing as an inspiration and as a model of that shift and that hope. And also, like you were talking about with Annie, like she went up that ladder, and the ride that you got on from leaving the community college that didn't see you, didn't value you, but that ride. And I also, we didn't talk about the movies, but we can talk a little bit, because your movies have impact. Like, just briefly, what is Jen about?
So Jen is a story about a teenage girl whose life changes when her mother converts to Islam. So again, a family story. I'm always drawn to families. But yeah, that's what. Oh, Connie! Hi, Connie. My friend Connie.
And she is proud of you. Yes, and we all are, County. Yes, Connie, we are celebrating her.
Can I just brag on Connie for a
second? Yeah, absolutely.
Connie, because Connie and I went to film school together, and we were in the same class. And you want to talk about bravery? Like, she was always the person in our class that was like, look, you're not going to put my work into a box. And I just always remember that about Connie. And she's just always been that. And, I think we kind of lost touch for a number of years, just, how life happens in this number of years. And then we reconnected some years ago. One of our other classmates, she and I were doing a documentary together, and we reconnected. And also Facebook, helped us kind of reconnect. And so I just, see on Facebook everything that she's doing. And she's like writing a book, and she's like doing so many amazing things in Cleveland. I think she's in Cleveland, in the Cleveland area. And so I'm just so happy for her. But yeah, Connie has always been like just an inspiration. Like I said, I've always been an introvert and kind of in the sideline. And I would sit in class and be like, oh, Connie. She does such amazing work. Like, oh, yeah, Connie's about to kill it.
Yeah, Connie, find me. I want you to come on the show. We need to talk. I would love to have
you. Should definitely talk to her. She's doing great work.
And here so this is my mom. She says you're an amazing woman, and you are. And I'm sure she cannot wait to have you come visit. Okay, so Jen is about a young woman whose life changes when her mom converts to Islam.
Yes.
And Hosea, tell us about Hosea.
And then Hosea is actually it's a modern day retelling of the biblical story. If you're familiar with the story in the Bible of Hosea, and in the way it's usually preached in the church is that it's the story about this prophet who God tells him to marry a prostitute, and it's like supposed to be a symbol of, Israel has turned away from God and so on and so forth. But so we decided to take that story and tell it from the perspective of the woman. And so it's a story about a woman who is being trafficked, and her life just takes a different path than what she originally thought it would. And it's all about her gaining her own sense of worth and her self-acceptance. It's like her getting that bravery for herself to have a different life, to choose a different life, and to accept herself for who she is, flaws and all, and to just be content with where she is. And so it's a beautiful story. It's a hard but beautiful look at a woman trying to find herself. So that's Hosea. And then what's the other one?
African America.
African America. So African America is is an interesting story. It's a South African movie, and it's
Mm.
about this South African woman who has this. She has a this notion that if she goes to America, that life is better in America, and so she kind of leaves everything behind, leaves her family, leaves her fiance, and takes money and goes to chase after this dream of being a Broadway star. She's like a singer, and she finds out that she many years ago she actually got into Juilliard and no one told her, and so
Mm.
she's like, I have to take this opportunity and chase after my dream and make it. Like, I have to prove to myself that I can make it. So she leaves everything. She's like on the verge of getting married, and she like becomes, what do you call it, runaway bride, and like leaves her fiance and moves to America to pursue this dream, only to discover that America is not, it's not everything that she thought it was going to be, and that sometimes the grass is greener where you water it, and
Mm.
so she just gets a hard lesson in that. Um, so there's that, and then Dottie and Soul is my first comedy. So Dottie and Soul is like a fun movie about a tech entrepreneur who a deal goes wrong, and he has to strike a deal where he brings on the snack cart vendor who works at his mother's retirement home, thinking that she's gonna be his cover, right? Like, she's just gonna be the front face person. But she ends up being the smartest one in the room, and they end up running the company together. So yeah, it's just my attempt to try to do something that was kind of lighthearted, something that my dad would watch. It's so funny. Like, my parents, I love them. They love all my work. They're super proud of me. But you know, I wanted to make something that my dad would go, oh, I know that actor, and just something that's like lighthearted that they could sit on the couch and enjoy on a Sunday afternoon. So this one is for them.
I love it, and I love that your film also have very strong female characters like
Mm-hmm.
that. The like elevating women of color, absolutely. So we only have a couple minutes, and I told you I wanted to. I'm so excited about this because I am so proud of you. But what I want us to do, and sometimes I forget, but I think really like I'm really working on normalizing just being proud about the things that we do and who we are. So 5 things that you're proud of.
Oh, 5 things that I'm proud of. Um, I am proud of the fact that I have managed to, even in the midst of a pandemic, I have managed to um, find a way to still work and, find work in the middle of a very challenging time.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, even in that regard, I'm just proud of the fact that I'm here. Well, that's more grateful. I'm more grateful that I'm here.
Yeah.
I'm proud of the fact that um, I am soon to be 46 years old, and that I am working in this business.
Mhm.
Sometimes I feel like I'm like behind the curve because like I said, it's only been 5 years since I kind of went in this direction of producing. But the fact that I've been able to get here, and I'm a little bit older than some of my counterparts, tend to
Mhm.
be a lot younger. Um, I am proud of the fact that uh, out of film school, I directed 2 feature films straight out of film school as a director. Um, and not a lot of people can say that. Proud of my composition earrings.
That was Anjali. That was the first thing when we got on before we came on. I was like, "Tell me about those earrings. Where did you get them? You have to tell us where you got them."
I ordered these from it's called House of Accessories. It's a store. You should look them up on Instagram. They have a store in Atlanta, and they have so many great earrings. And I'm such a fan of wooden earrings, and that's what. Yes.
Yeah.
So can I use that as one of my as one
You're
of my thoughts that I'm
well, you
proud
know
of?
what? I'm proud that you were supporting small businesses,
Yeah.
and also like the having that wood. So the wood, that's a piece of the earth, right?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So you have one more.
One more. I am proud. I am proud of myself that I'm starting to um or eat better. Like I just signed up for one of those those food boxes, and it's vegetarian. Like it's a vegetarian box. And I wasn't really that interested in being a vegetarian, but I tried it, and the food has been very good. And so I've been trying to do more vegetarian. So I'm very proud of myself of kind of like slowly trying to
Yep.
adopt this lifestyle to better myself. So
I'm super proud of you too. I'm going to try to do mine really fast. So I have to think fast. I'm really proud just along those lines. I'm continuing to work out in the morning. So my working out is just getting on the treadmill. And
yeah.
you know what? Sometimes it's 15 minutes. Most of the time it's 30. But what matters is that I get on and that I accept that the time is what it is. Um, I am also
Yeah.
proud. Um, I have I have big dreams and I have big visions, and I'm proud of myself for that. And I'm proud of the work that I put in behind them. I'm proud of I I'm proud of you know what, I've said this before, but I'm going to say it again, but I'm proud of the relationship I have with my kids.
Mm.
And it's so beautiful to be able to like to see my daughter with her daughter, and like just having that intergenerational um, relationship. I am proud um, of the, let me think, I'm trying to think of new things. Um, I'm proud of being able to provide for my family and to provide, so this will be my fifth one, for my plants. I'm a new and I'm figuring it out. We're doing okay. I haven't killed them yet. Um, we had one more comment I wanted to make sure that you saw before we go.
I was it's a market tenacity. Oh, thank
And
you
you
so
are a
much,
light.
honey.
You
Thank you
are a
so
light,
much.
Avril.
Thank you. You
Thank
too,
you for
honey. Keep shining. Keep
yeah.
shining. Keep doing what you're doing. You're doing such important work. Like, thank you so much.
And that's why the space is so important. Like we just need the space to see each other, hear each other, and celebrate who we are in this world. Thank you for joining tonight, and
You
everybody, please make sure to join in on Friday. So, if last words, April.
I just thank you for this space. I mean, thank you for this space to just be. I also want to thank you for starting this call off and just giving me space to just kind of begin where I wanted to begin, because I don't think I've ever had that conversation about roots and about family and community. And that really meant a lot to me. And I carry that with me tonight. Like as I go about the rest of my evening, I'm like, I'm really I'm really moved by that conversation, because it's very rare that I get to have that conversation with, especially in public.
Yeah.
So I thank you for that.
Well, thank you for sharing. And the vibrations, I feel it. I feel it. So good night, everybody. Thank you for being with us. Don't forget, watch the show on Friday. I know there's going to be a whole lot of sisterhood going on, so it's going to be beautiful. Please all know that you are loved and cared for always. Good night.